Tomorrow will mark 20 years since a tugboat hauling two barges slammed into the I40 bridge over the Arkansas River. Both the bridge collapse and the nearby town of Webbers Falls were the focus of international news coverage over that Memorial Day weekend.
Tonight you'll hear from three people who were there that day, including one of the last interviews with a survivor who recently died. Our Dave Davis has this Oklahoma's own original report.
Morning. Officials say a barge has knocked out a 400-foot section of the bridge on I40 over the Arkansas River near Webbers Falls early this morning.
You can see, my goodness, that collapsed section of the bridge.
Right now, dive crews are on the scene looking for people who are still trapped beneath the water. About a dozen people are still submerged in the water.
When all of a sudden they heard a horrific noise. One man described it as a sonic boom. Another woman said it was an explosion so loud that it reminded her of the Oklahoma City bombing.
The reality of the I-40 bridge collapse was even worse than the initial reports. On Sunday, May 26th at 7:45 a.m., the towboat Robert Y. Love, hauling two empty asphalt barges, slammed into Pier 3 of the Interstate 40 bridge just downstream of Webbers Falls. 500 feet of the bridge came crashing onto the barges below. The captain that day was Joe Deadman. The official NTSB report shows he lost consciousness, possibly because of an abnormal heart rhythm while he was piloting the ship. It's estimated Deadman was unconscious for several minutes. When he woke up, he said he remembered seeing a vehicle plunge right off the edge of the broken bridge and then sounding an alarm. It's hard to find video from May 26th without seeing a silver Dodge Dakota that didn't go off the edge.
We was on our way to Arcoma. My husband was supposed to preach, but hey, we didn't make it.
That was Max and Goldie Alley's truck. Despite a broken back, broken rib, and punctured lung at least between them, Max survived and preached regularly another 10 years. Goldie just died last October. I spoke with her a month before she passed away.
We stood there and watched that traffic go in that water. I told Max, I said, Max, we got to do something. And he said, well, Goldie, we'll just pray.
The NTSB determined 11 vehicles with 19 people inside total went off the bridge. 14 people died, most of them drowned. In his decades of service in the Navy, as the current Verdigris police chief, as a firefighter in Muskogee, Jack Shackelford told me he has still never seen anything like it.
Do you still have trouble with it now 20 years?
Not until I talk about it. And I try not to talk about it.
Shackelford's recall of the smallest details from those days he spent on the scene is razor sharp. But someone he could never forget is the youngest victim, 3-year-old Shay Johnson.
I actually picked her up off the airboat and put her in the body bag and carried her up to the processing where they had a temporary morgue set up. Yeah, it was hard because I had a daughter about that time that was 3 years old, and it kind of hit home.
Jewel Horn Hall was Webbers Falls mayor back then. She lobbied for funding for the memorial after and still organizes annual reunions. Between the I-40 tragedy, the devastating 2019 flooding, and another barge collision in 2019, I asked her how the small town on the banks of the Arkansas can survive all of that.
We have God with us, and we're able. He's with us, he strengthens us, and he helps us face whatever comes our way.
No one was ever charged with a crime for the I-40 bridge collapse. There were lawsuits that were settled. I asked Chief Shackelford and the former mayor if they think justice has been done.
That's really hard for me to say because I really don't understand why it happened.
How can you put a price on people's lives? It's just, it's an accident's an accident, and being in this business, you deal with accidents all the time. It's just a tragic thing that happened. Try to go on.
Before she died, Goldie would tell anyone who asked, and some who didn't, about how she believed God had saved her and her husband that day, and the terrifying ordeal taught her a lesson that she carried with her until the end.
You better pray before that happens, because you don't think that happens so fast. Your life changes so fast.
Dave Davis, Oklahoma's own News on 6.
The tugboat captain Joe Deadman died in 2018. Attempts to get comments from attorneys who represented or knew of him were not successful for this story.